They called me broken. His billionaire family threw me out the night I found out I couldn't have children. But life has its own timing. Years later, when I stepped out of that black limousine, holding my twins, the same people who destroyed me realized one truth: karma never misses its target. Before I tell you how I went from being humiliated in a billionaire mansion to walking back through its gates as a mother of twins, hit that subscribe button, drop a if you believe in divine justice, and stay until the end, because what happened next will leave you speechless. I still remember the night everything changed, the night I learned that love alone wasn't enough to protect me from cruelty disguised as class. It was supposed to be a family dinner, one of those formal, glittering evenings where everything gleamed: the chandelier, the silverware, even the smiles that hid judgment behind them. I had spent the entire day trying to make sure everything was perfect. My husband's mother had insisted I wear something appropriate for the family name, so I chose a simple ivory dress and tied my hair neatly, hoping to look the part of the woman they wanted me to be. But deep down, I knew no dress or diamonds could make me one of them. When the test results arrived earlier that day, I hadn't opened them. I thought I'd wait until after dinner, maybe when it was just me and him. I wanted us to face it together, whatever it said, but his mother had other plans. Somewhere between the second course and dessert, she leaned toward me with that cold smile and said, "So, any news on whether our family line continues?" I froze. My husband's eyes met mine, pleading silently. I tried to deflect, to smile politely, but she wasn't done. She snapped her fingers, and one of the staff appeared with an envelope. My envelope. She had already opened it. I could feel my heart pound in my chest as she read aloud, her voice slicing through the quiet room like a knife. Infertile. That word echoed in the air, heavy and cruel. My vision blurred as I heard the faint sound of someone gasping. It took me a moment to realize it was me. My husband sat still, motionless, silent, his jaw tight, but his lips sealed. Not one word, not one defense, just silence. That silence told me everything I needed to know. His mother stood up, eyes blazing with satisfaction. "You've embarrassed this family enough," she said. "We don't keep broken things here." The guests looked away, pretending to sip their wine, as if humiliation were just another form of entertainment. I waited for my husband to say something, anything, but he only lowered his head. That was the moment my heart cracked, not from her words, but from his silence. By the time I reached the front door, rain was already pouring outside. I remember standing there, shivering, my dress clinging to me, the makeup I had carefully applied running down my face. The butler handed me my coat, out of pity, not kindness, and closed the door behind me. That sound, the heavy click of the lock, felt like a full stop to the life I'd built. As I walked down that long driveway, I realized something that night. They hadn't just thrown me out of their mansion, they had thrown me into my becoming. And even though I didn't know it yet, that cold, lonely walk in the rain was the beginning of my rebirth. The days that followed felt endless, like time itself had turned against me. I woke up every morning in a small, dimly lit apartment that smelled faintly of rain and old paint, the kind of place you rent when you have nowhere else to go. I'd stare at the ceiling, wondering how a woman could go from dining under chandeliers to counting coins for groceries in just 1 week. The silence of that apartment was louder than the humiliation I'd endured, but it was also honest. For the first time in years, I could hear my own thoughts, raw, painful, and real. I tried to distract myself with routines. I took long walks in the park, pretending to admire the flowers, when really, I was just trying to remember how to breathe. People around me moved with purpose, mothers pushing strollers, couples holding hands, joggers chasing endorphins, while I walked like a ghost. I wasn't angry yet. I was numb. Anger, I would later learn, takes time to arrive. First comes disbelief, then sorrow, and only when you've cried yourself empty does anger find its way in. It came one night when I found myself scrolling through old photos. Our wedding, our trips, our smiles. There was one picture of him holding me close, under a sky full of fireworks. I stared at it until the tears stopped falling. Then I laughed, a quiet, bitter laugh, because I realized something. I had loved a man who only stood tall when life was easy. The moment things got hard, he shrank. That night, I made a promise to myself. I would never again beg someone to choose me. The next morning, I decided to volunteer at the local hospital. I didn't have much to offer, just my time. But somehow helping others made my pain feel smaller. That's where I met Dr. Lewis, a calm and gentle soul who never looked at me with pity. He once told me, "Sometimes life breaks you, not to destroy you, but to shape you." Those words stayed with me. I started to believe that maybe my story wasn't over, that maybe in some strange way, all this suffering had a purpose. Weeks turned into months, and though I was healing, something inside me still ached. Not just for a child, but for meaning. One day, while helping out in the maternity ward, a nurse mentioned a fertility research program. They were looking for participants, women who had been told they'd never conceive. For a second, I almost walked away. I didn't want hope to hurt me again. But that night, as I sat by my window, watching the city lights flicker, I felt a quiet whisper inside me. Try one more time. That whisper became my turning point. I didn't know if it would lead to joy or more heartbreak, but for the first time in a long while, I chose to believe in life again. And that choice, fragile, uncertain, but brave, was the first seed of everything that was about to bloom. The morning I found out I was pregnant, I thought it was a mistake. I must have read the test a dozen times, each time expecting the faint pink line to disappear. But it didn't. It stayed, steady, unshakable, like a whisper from God saying, "See? I wasn't done with you yet." I sat on the edge of my bed, hands trembling, tears blurring my vision. After all the tests, all the doctors, all the cruel words, I had stopped dreaming of this moment. And now, when I least expected it, life had given me a miracle. The first person I told was Dr. Lewis. He smiled, that calm, knowing smile of his, and said, "Sometimes miracles choose the ones who've suffered most." I laughed through my tears, but beneath the joy, I was terrified. I had no husband, no family, no plan, just faith and a tiny heartbeat that somehow gave me strength. From that day forward, every breath, every prayer, every meal became a promise to protect the life growing inside me. The months passed in a blur of exhaustion and quiet wonder. I worked long hours at the hospital, saving every penny, reading parenting books late into the night. The first ultrasound changed everything. The technician smiled and said, "Looks like you're carrying two." My heart stopped. Two? I thought I'd misheard. But there they were on the screen, two tiny shapes, dancing in rhythm. I cried so hard the nurse had to hold my hand. Twins. Double the love I never thought I'd have. Pregnancy wasn't easy. There were nights when I'd wake up in pain, clutching my stomach, whispering to them, "Please stay with me." But every kick reminded me I wasn't alone anymore. These babies were proof that I was never broken, only delayed. I started writing in a journal for them, letters they would one day read, letters about strength, faith, and the kind of love that survives storms. When the twins finally arrived, a boy and a girl, the world went quiet. I held them close, inhaling their scent, feeling the warmth of their skin against mine. I named them Hope and Isaiah because they were exactly that, hope reborn, and a reminder that faith sees beyond despair. The nurses called me the miracle mom. I didn't feel like one, but every time I looked into my baby's eyes, I believed that maybe, just maybe, I was chosen for this. As months turned into years, I built a new life for us. While they napped, I started selling handmade wellness products online. Small things at first, candles and oils. But soon people noticed. Orders poured in, interviews followed, and my story, the woman who was once called infertile, became a symbol of resilience. My name began appearing in magazines, not as someone's wife, but as a self-made woman. And as I watched my twins grow, laughing in the sunlight, I realized something profound. I hadn't just given birth to them, they had given birth to me. Success didn't come overnight, it came quietly, in small victories that no one clapped for. The first time my online store made enough to pay rent, I celebrated with takeout and a dance with my twins in our tiny living room. Hope laughed so hard she fell over, and Isaiah clapped like he'd just witnessed magic. Maybe he had, because in that moment, we were no longer surviving, we were beginning to live. Over the next few years, my little brand grew beyond anything I imagined. I started with wellness candles and oils, but soon added skincare and self-care journals. I named the company Second Sun because it was born out of darkness, proof that even after night, the sun always finds its way back. I shared my journey openly online, not as a victim, but as a woman who rebuilt herself from ashes. Women from all over began reaching out, saying my story gave them hope. This time I walked onto a morning show set, hair neatly braided, wearing the same grace I was once mocked for, and told my story to the world. The anchor called me the woman who turned pain into power. I smiled, but inside I thought, I just learned to stop letting pain define me. Life became beautifully busy. My twins started school, and every morning before they left, they would hug me and say, "You're the best mommy ever." Those words meant more than any headline or award, because behind every strong woman is not just her success, but the love she fought to protect. I had built an empire, but my true kingdom was at home. Then one evening, as I was reviewing proposals in my office, an invitation arrived. Gold lettering, elegant font. It was for a charity gala hosted by one of the biggest companies in the country, my ex-husband's family's company. The same name that once threw me out now appeared on an envelope addressed to me, inviting me as one of the main sponsors. I stared at it for a long time, not out of bitterness, but disbelief at how life circles back. The woman they had dismissed as unfit now stood at a place of power they could never have imagined. I could have ignored it. I could have sent a polite decline, but something deep inside whispered, "No, you'll go. Not for revenge, but for closure." That night, I stood by my window, watching the city lights glitter like stars, and I realized the girl who once walked away in the rain had become someone new, unbreakable, unshakable, and finally at peace. I had built myself from scratch, and now the world that had once rejected me would have to rise to meet the woman I'd become. The invitation wasn't just paper, it was destiny calling me to take my rightful place, not as their victim, but as the queen I was always meant to be. The night of the gala felt like stepping into a dream I once feared I'd never wake from. The city skyline glittered in the distance, and the grand hotel entrance shimmered under golden lights. As my car pulled up to the red carpet, I took a slow breath. The woman who once left this world in tears was gone. In her place stood someone reborn, confident, composed, and completely in control of her story. When the chauffeur opened the door, I stepped out in a floor-length emerald gown that flowed like quiet fire. The cameras flashed, and for a moment, the entire world seemed to pause. Then two small hands reached for mine, my twins. Hope wore a white dress with tiny silver shoes. Isaiah looked sharp in a little tuxedo that matched mine. "Are you ready, Mommy?" he asked. I smiled, more than ever. Together, we walked inside. The ballroom was breathtaking, chandeliers sparkling, champagne glasses clinking, laughter echoing like it belonged to another universe. I felt eyes turn toward me as I entered. Some people whispered, others froze, and then I saw them. His mother, sitting at the center table in her diamonds, and beside her, the man who once vowed to love me. His face drained of color the moment our eyes met. He looked exactly the same, but smaller somehow, as if life had carved out his pride. For a heartbeat, the room fell into silence. The orchestra faltered. Then, as if the universe itself couldn't resist irony, the host announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we're honored by one of our main sponsors, the founder of Second Sun, Betrayal," and my full name filled the room. Applause erupted, hesitant at first, then thunderous. His mother's smile froze mid-expression. His jaw tightened. When I reached the stage, I turned to face the crowd. The same kind of crowd that once watched me be humiliated. Only this time, I was no longer the target. I was the storm. Sometimes, I began softly, life takes everything from you, not to break you, but to build the strength you didn't know you had. I paused, meeting their gazes one by one. And sometimes, the people who call you broken are just too blind to see your wings. The room erupted in applause. But I wasn't finished. I gestured toward my twins. These are my miracles, I said. Proof that no human word, not even infertile, can define what God decides. For the first time that night, I saw tears in my ex-husband's eyes. His mother looked away. When I stepped down from the stage, guests surrounded me. Investors, journalists, women thanking me for inspiring them. And through it all, my children held my hands, proud and beaming. I didn't need revenge, their awe, their silence, their regret. That was justice enough. As I walked out that night, the cameras still flashing, I realized something powerful. I hadn't returned to remind them of who I was. I had returned to show the world who I had become. After the gala, the night air felt softer than I remembered. Like even the wind was proud of me. I walked out beneath the glowing city lights, holding my twins' hands, their laughter filling the silence that used to haunt me. But before I reached the car, I heard a voice I hadn't heard in years. Wait. I turned, and there he was, my ex-husband, the man who had once stood by silently while his mother threw me out into the rain. He looked older now, not by age, but by regret. His once perfectly polished confidence was gone, replaced with something raw, almost human. "You look incredible," he said softly, as if the words themselves were fragile. I didn't respond. I just looked at him. The man I once loved so deeply, I would have burned for him. Now I only felt peace. He took a slow step closer. "I wanted to tell you that I'm sorry. For everything, for not defending you, for being weak, for letting them destroy what we had." His voice trembled, but I stood still, calm as the night around us. "Do you know what hurt the most?" I finally asked. "It wasn't your mother's cruelty. It was your silence. You let them treat me like I was nothing." And that silence echoed louder than any insult. He nodded, eyes wet. "You deserved better. I see that now. I've lost everything that mattered, the company, the house, my peace. But seeing you tonight, with them." His gaze shifted toward Hope and Isaiah. "Are they?" "Yes," I said simply. "They're mine. And that's all that matters." He smiled faintly, pain flickering across his face. "They're beautiful. They're a blessing," I replied. "The kind I was told I'd never have." I could see his heart breaking in real time, and for a brief second, I almost pitied him. But I knew that pain, the pain of realizing too late, was his lesson to live with. "I wish I could take it all back," he whispered. "You can't," I said gently, "and I wouldn't want you to. Because every cruel word, every lonely night, every tear, they made me who I am. Without them, I wouldn't have found my strength." He wiped his face, nodding slowly. "Do you forgive me?" he asked. I paused, then smiled softly. "I do. But not for you, for me. Because carrying hate would mean I'm still chained to that past, and I'm done living there." He closed his eyes, a tear slipping down his cheek. I turned to my twins and said, "Let's go home." As we walked away, their tiny voices filled the air again, light and pure. That night, I didn't feel victorious. I felt free. Forgiveness wasn't about erasing pain. It was about refusing to let it own me. I wasn't the woman they threw away anymore. I was the woman they could never break. And that, I realized, was the real redemption, peace. And that's how the woman they called infertile became the mother of miracles, not just of children, but of her own destiny. If this story moved you, hit that like button, drop it in the comments if you believe in second chances, and subscribe for more stories about strength, karma, and self-worth. Because remember, when life throws you out, sometimes it's just clearing the way for your grand entrance.